How long does it take you to find your true gift? Some of us are born with the idea, I'm going to be this. Others of us, most of us, don't have that luxury. I want you to imagine with me, you have a very, very successful 15-year career. You're extremely good at what you do. And then you crash and burn so hard that you believe you're going to die at age 33. The process that served you so well for all this time and all this success, they're not working anymore. Now what? What do you do now? Well, this is what happened to my guest, Santoshi Porner, and I really hope I pronounced her name right there. And she was born in Sweden. She now lives in Norway, and that's where she's coming to you from today, is in Norway. Now, Santoshi had to start over. She focused on learning the impact of stress on the nervous system and the connection between the mind, the body, and the spirit. Let's hear this story. My name is Frank Zaccari. This is Energy Healing and Integrative Wellness, which is a relatively new category that we're putting on the Life Altering Events channel. Santoshi, welcome to Life Altering Events.
Thank you very much, Frank.
Well, I'm excited. You came very, very highly recommended to have as a guest. And when we spoke, I was even more impressed. Would you share with the viewers around the world a little bit about your early childhood life in Sweden? What prompted you to move the way you did?
Yeah, I was very shy as a kid. And in that sense, I also had this idea that I would die when I was 33, already from the childhood. So I was very kind of withdrawn in that sense and not so outgoing. But later in life, I understood that that was because of trauma, but also about something that I didn't know about then. Some kind of misunderstanding in me or something like that. And it turned out when I became 33 that it was more about the ideas to die of who I was before. Because I really saw myself as, I don't know what to call it really, but really socially shy and being very, very anxious, talking to people, being around people. So I spent a lot of time in my room, reading, for example. So that was, yeah, and I became the good girl that did everything right and followed the footsteps of my father in some sense, as I started to work in the bank where he worked in the same kind of company.
So you worked in foreign banking and pension funds. I had a little experience in that way years ago. Incredibly high stress, high stress. And being the shy girl, what led you to that? Was it just your dad following his footsteps?
No, I was kind of very unsure of what to become, really. I didn't know at all what to do with my life. I wanted to educate myself, but didn't know really what. And I was not so supported in that. So I felt quite alone in my choice. And I ended up taking the wrong choice in a way, ending up with, I loved chemistry in school, trying to understand how universe and how everything is put together. So, but then I didn't really trust in myself and I had a very low self-confidence. So in a way, I took a training that was not on my level of what I wanted to be, because I wanted to go in the technical high school. No, not high school. What's the university? But I didn't trust that I would manage that. So I kind of looked into something to do before so I could be more confident. But there it was also working with animals and do a lot of laboratory things with animals, and that didn't fit at all with me. And I didn't understand that until I was suddenly there. So I had to drop my apartment that I had fixed or I got from the school, and suddenly I didn't know what to do. So I just, first option was to go back to where I had been working in the summer. And that was my father's kind of area, or in the same company, or what to say.
Right. It happens to many people trying to find themselves at that young age. And I always get a kick out of it in the US high schools, and you're 17, 18. What do you want to be with the rest of your life? Who knows? I'm 68. I don't know what I want to do when I grow up. It's just one of those things. It's crazy. Let's go back to this age 33 issue that you had.
Yeah.
You said you had this major crash and burn, and you really felt awkward. What happened when that occurred?
Yeah, I had been working there in the bank for almost 10 years, something like that, and working in the foreign department in different areas or different apartments. And then I ended up on the floor where they trade, and sitting there with a lot of computers and people screaming, and several hundred people working in the same room. And through me, all the money in foreign exchange should flow, because I was not in the front office and not in the back office, but everything between them went through me. And I was in charge of having sort of a zero closure of today's business. So all the accounts would be zero. And it was a lot of stress and a lot of pressure on myself to really manage this, because one thing, the whole thing was messed up for the day. So it led to, in a way, it was not only that was also what I realized later, but then I sort of burned out. And I had a long list of different, what is that called in English? If you have a disease, the different symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
So I had 2 pages of just symptoms of different crazy things that happened to my mind and my body and how I felt, really.
Wow.
And not until I came up from the subway one day and didn't know where I was. And I was in the subway station where I lived. So I came up and didn't know where I was. And then I got scared.
Mm-hmm.
But not until then I kind of realized that something was wrong in a way.
When we spoke, you said, I didn't have a physical death at age 33, but the old me died and the new me emerged. And you started your own type of rehab. What did you do? What did you find in this rehab you were doing?
Yeah, I didn't trust any doctors, because that was not my upbringing either, or because of what things happened and happened to people around me. So they didn't get help. And I didn't get help when I was to the doctor, because I had stress already when I was a kid, but I didn't realize that, because I had a lot of symptoms with a pain in my belly and so on. And then I went to the doctor and they couldn't find anything. So I didn't trust them. So I didn't go to the doctor because I didn't see any option. And then I ended up in more complementary alternative field, even though for me that was far out to go there. I didn't trust that either in a way, but I had to do that now when I felt that nothing was working anymore. So then I went there and I ended up in Greece on an island trying out meditation. And even that, it was like I say, I go to that island, and if I just don't want this kind of meditation things, it's not for me, then I just stay on the beach or something like that. And my whole life in a way crashed. My long relationship crashed and everything crashed there. And then I started to and then I went to some alternative thing and it worked. And just in 3 weeks, it started to change. So I got curious of this, and the meditation was amazing. And in this island, I also came really connected with my heart and felt home for the first time in my life. So it was also a really turning point at that date, 33 years old. And then I felt like, okay, this is what this death, fear, or whatever it was about.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started to learn and also see that I could feel that I was always on the wrong place in life, work-wise, because I also tried other educations, law education and English or art and different things. But I didn't really find that, this is for me. Totally. I loved it, but it was something not really fitting. And not until then I started to meditate and come into this area and really connecting with my soul. Then I understood that, okay, this is sort of more than just a normal life in that sense, or how to call it, not normal, but a life that we have an idea of how it would be, like getting married, kids, all these things. And then I saw that, okay, there is a deeper meaning here also.
And when we spoke, one of the things that really impressed me is you said you got very curious about how the nervous system addresses trauma and fear. Elaborate on that. What did you find?
Yeah, so what I found was that all these symptoms in a way came from the nervous system, and my nervous system was also in a way not regulated, because it all ended up in something called the freeze response. And then the system shuts down in a way, and then our social engagement system doesn't work either. So that was also why my system was so withdrawn all the time. So I needed in a way to learn how to regulate my nervous system. So I went to a lot of different trainings, and I ended up with a trauma training, somatic experiencing. And there I learned a lot about how the nervous system works, and also starting to move things that was kind of closed or stuck in my system, starting to dare to feel and to be in the body and so on. And that also led me to what I work with today, that is embodiment, because when we are traumatized, or even as what I found out, or what the scientists say in this area, in the epigenetics, is that they have found out also that trauma is, you can get it from your ancestors and your parents. So if it's strong things that happens, for example, if in the World War II, many people that had a lot of experiences there, what they have seen is also that the grandkids, for example, have nervous system that is much more sensitive than kind of normal or a balanced nervous system. So then they have seen that it goes in the nervous system. So you can in a way also be born with a system that already has trauma in it, even though it's not your trauma. And that was also a case that I understood in myself and in my system, that I was very sensitive as a kid, and in that sense also kind of kept myself in a safe space as I could.
Mm-hmm.
In my little room, or what to call it. That was at least my feeling. I mean, it didn't mean that I was there all the time, but that is what I remember, that was a space where I were a lot.
That's really interesting, because I've always heard people say, medical professionals, not to pick on medical professionals, but medical professionals say, well, it's what occurred to you is what we need to worry about. And you discovered that it may have had nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. And in that sense also, the mind gets identified with this, because I all the time try to understand what was wrong with me, mm-hmm. because it didn't function as it's supposed to. I saw people had abilities that I didn't have, because they were not developed in the right kind of, or in a way, when the system freezes, a lot of things kind of freezes. So also the development of, for example, the social engagement system is not working. So I also work with that today to kind of nurture the nervous system so the natural growth of it can open up again. And that is also leading more to the connection of who we are on a deeper level. So if you have, in a way, traumas that are there, it's not always easy to go deeper in yourself and connect with what is just you, not that you have to be something or change or anything like that. It's just you as you are, or me as I am, without changing, without trying to be something, needing to prove that I'm good or anything like that. It's just a natural state, in a way, state of being. And that is also what I nourish with this work that I found.
You had started the Neurointegrative Embodiment Program, correct?
Yeah.
And one of the things I put a note down when we spoke about judgment and positive and negative and the impact that that has within the nervous system, which then ripples through the rest of the body. Could you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, it's like, I mean, the brain and the nervous system is neutral. There is no like judgments natural in there, in a way. So it's more the thoughts and the mind that we have received or try to figure out why things didn't work as I did. And then I judge myself for being wrong, or I didn't function as I wanted and I couldn't do the things I wanted and so on. And then this judgment system kind of also accelerates, because what we focus on is also what is built in the nervous system and in the nerves, because that is also neuroscience today, that what we focus on is also what kind of neurons that will be created. So if we create charge inside, there will also be more charge. And a judgment is a charge, in a way, for the nervous system. So in that sense, it also nourishes the fear system that is the trauma system. It's the same system, because fear system is either it's fear or it's fear of death. It's like 2 levels. And the first level is more anger, worry, rage. And when it becomes even more, then it overwhelms the system. And then the system tries to, the only way out is to shut down. Mm-hmm. And then the body goes into a freeze response, or something called collapse. And then also the social engagement system, and also the ability to say no and be clear and see and feel motivation, all that is kind of frozen at that point. And then we don't function so well when we are in that. And that is also a place where most people are very uncomfortable to be, even though many of us end up in that state of being or state of mind many times during the day. So it's not only that it's like locked. So it both is locked, but it can also fluctuate during the day.
Wow, so you can go through these states multiple times in any one day, right?
Yeah.
Wow. Now, in addition to doing this embodiment program, you teach at the largest private health school in Sweden, dealing with these high stress things. Tell us what you're doing there.
Yeah, I work in this school, and there I have students that are educated to work with people that are stressed. It's a stress pedagogy. It's not so good to pronounce it in English.
All right, don't worry.
And then there I teach them a lot about the nervous system, but I also teach them teach in complementary medicine, because this neurointegrative embodiment is also in that field area, even though it's not what I teach there, my method, because it's new, but all the science behind it and all these things is very important, I feel, to share also there. So that's what I do now. And
What are give us an example of some of the uh, um, integrative medicine or integrative solutions that you understand and can present
in the school, or what do you mean?
in the school as you're training these people who deal in a high stress world?
Yeah, me myself, I did train them in mindfulness. All I do is kind of mindfulness based, because in the mindfulness, and if you are mindful, the body also goes to this natural neutral state where change can happen, and where rest and these responses, the natural responses of rest and digest, can happen. So that is also what I teach. But then there is also a lot of other teachers there that teach about different aspects of tools for handling stress or other things. I'm more interested, and also more or less always end up in the base and of the house. How does it work? What kind of components needs to be there? And how is the nervous system working? Because without that knowledge and knowing that health is dependent on how is it in the nervous system now? Otherwise, we only go to unhealthiness or unhealth if the nervous system is not in neutral or in a sort of positive. It feels like positive when we are relaxed, for example, but it's not a positive state in the mind. It's just a natural state.
Mindfulness is, I read more and more articles and see more and more discussions about mindfulness. And it's almost as if, well, this is something new. It's not new, correct?
No, it's ancient. And that is also, in a way, what is around the complementary methods. Many of them has this ancient thing that is, in a way, beyond religion and everything, because it's just connected with who we are and the being, and being present, being aware, and so on, and all the states of being that is possible to develop and be reconnected with as a human. Because what we also have this ability with the brain and the nervous system is also to, in a way, develop as human beings, because the brain, the human being, we have this neocortex, and that is a new brain in a way. So all these other things connected with the fear brain are lower parts of the brain. And in that sense, at least what I have learned is that it's also a sort of hierarchy in the brain, so that we can, in a way, rise the energy, because the energy is flowing in the spine and so on. So it also flows up in the head and in the brain. And the more energy and natural flow we have, the more capacity also the brain and the nervous system can have, so we can navigate in a different way in life, not feeling all these uncomfortable fear symptoms, in a way, that comes if the nervous system and brain is stuck in a fear response or a trauma response that is the same, but it's just a different impact if it's towards trauma.
Now, with COVID, which dramatically increased stress and fatigue and burnout, have you seen a big increase in this in your practices?
Both yes and no, in a way. It is there, but I also notice now when I work with neurointegrative embodiments, because it kind of opened up even more during COVID time. So in that sense, I was also able to work with people in their homes, even though it's COVID time. So in that sense, that opened up. But I also, when people share about their lives and how it is working, stress is incredibly increasing. It is like, if we focus on stress, it also spreads. And COVID also came with a lot of stress because we don't know, and being with the unknown is also what the system can't cope with when it is in this fear response, because naturally everything is unknown in life. So if we are in balance, that is even what we feel is exciting in life, that wow, today this happened. And but if you are in fear responses, you also often kind of perceive it as a threat instead, as one more thing that happened, and the system starts to judge it and also feel it is a threat,
Mm-hmm.
even though it's not. Maybe it's some miracle happening,
Exactly.
coming towards you.
I've read many times that 90+% of what we fear and worry about never occurs, and we put ourselves through this undue stress and suffering, correct?
Yeah.
I love that. Well, Santoshi, this has been incredible, and we're just about out of time here. So what, with all you've done and all you've discovered and all the good that you're bringing, what one last thought would you like to leave with the viewers around the world today?
Yeah, I think that is connecting with my state of being, that when I was in these fear responses that I had, feeling sick and very unhealthy inside, even like heavy and a lot of sorrow and frustration and all these things, not knowing how to come out of it, and not even knowing that something else what was possible. That is in a way what I also share often with my students, that if anyone or if I could have known what is possible, I would hardly believe it, that I can feel like this today, because the health just continues. So if you work with yourself and the nervous system, it develops, and then it integrates even more and more states of healthy being that I didn't know was possible to have in my system. And in that sense, it's also possible for others.
Mm-hmm. This is the type of thing that needs reinforcement or continuing practice, correct?
Yeah, as it's not, I mean, the brain has been doing what it has been doing for a long time for most of us, if you're not a kid and a newborn, even though you can have some difficulties then too. But of course, it's a practice, but it's also development. So it's like a little also tipping point that the nervous system starts to learn to regulate itself. And then it's also kind of boosting in a way, but it's also a practice of being present, because if you're not present, then nothing of this will happen, because we need to be here in our lives, not thinking about our life, but really being in it and sensing it and feeling it in the body, because otherwise we don't know how to navigate either. If this thing that happens now, is this a yes or a no? Is this where I'm going to go or no? So I really need this presence and the connection with myself and my body to know where to go. And also, I mean, pleasure and joy and everything. If no one is there in the body feeling it, you don't even know that you are maybe okay or even happy, if you don't go there and sense it. So then it's in a way kind of wasted if you're not there in your own life.
Wow.
And that was also what I noticed.
This is incredible. Ladies and gentlemen, this, you need to watch this. You need to share it with everyone you know. This is amazing. I want to thank Santoshi again for this incredible life journey that she's explained to us, and how her program is helping so many. And it's something we all need to be aware of. So thank you again. Now, no matter what life throws at us, ladies and gentlemen, and we're going to get a lot of obstacles thrown at us, as we've heard today, lots of obstacles. Whenever this happens, do three things: look up, get up, never ever give up. Start moving, pick up the pieces, start moving forward. Better times and better people will come into your life. Now, I didn't believe that the first time I read it either, but it happens. It does. Now, if you want more information about Santoshi, you can contact me or go to her websites. And if you contact me, I will make sure it gets to her. You can watch this on ROKU TV, or you can watch it on my YouTube channel, Frank Zaccari. And if you go to the YouTube, please subscribe. Now, let me leave you with this, as I do every week, ladies and gentlemen. None of us are in this alone. And the secret to walking on water is to know where the rocks are. And today, Santoshi showed us where many of those rocks are. Join me again next week. We'll look into another life-altering event. Thank you again.
Thank you.